Both main characters in A Thousand Splendid Suns, Miriam and Layla, are greatly affected by their childhoods. Miriam's Nana was verbally abusive, and her father figure was only present one day a week for a couple of hours. After her abusive Nana passed away by taking her own life, when Miriam turned to her father, he abandoned her and married her off to an abusive husband, who was much older than her. Miriam was constantly reminded of how useless she was in the eyes of others, and she couldn't do anything for herself. As she grew older, she was unable to stand up for herself and do something about the way she was treated, especially in abusive situations. As a child, she was taught that she was an object for others to throw around, and as she grew older, she continued to act as such, because that's what she knew herself as. Layla, on the other hand, had a much better childhood than Miriam. Although it wasn't perfect, Layla had support in her life from her father and childhood love, Tariq. Layla was reminded that she was powerful and had control in her life, and that life was what she made of it. When Layla was put into abusive situations, she took initiative and took matters into her own hands. Layla stood up for herself and didn't allow herself to be pushed around because of how she was taught to value herself as a child. In The Lord of the Flies, a group of boys endure a plane crash that strands them on the island, which is the initial cause of the hostility between them. Before the crash, the boys came from very privileged backgrounds. They were described as wealthy and spoiled. The boys all thought of themselves before others and were accustomed to getting what they wanted when they wanted. This led to a problem when there was a group of them fighting for survival. Their selfishness and lack of respect towards others led to actions that eventually evolved into horribly violent and deadly acts. If the boys had come into the situation with a better understanding of how human interaction should work and had been more humble, their time on the island could have unfolded much better, with cooperation and teamwork rather than battling and selfish acts. The effect of upbringing is evident in Tanya Harding, ex-ice skater, who is believed to have planned an attack on her biggest competitor in order to secure herself a spot on the Olympic team. Harding was raised by her abusive mother and known as the ugly duckling in the ice skating world, constantly being reminded of her lack in appearance. Tanya's husband was also abusive. She had said in interviews that she didn't know any better. Her mom hit her and yelled at her, and so did her husband. She thought it was normal. Tanya's exposure to violence and abuse growing up from people she trusted influenced her actions later in life. She had never been taught that violence isn't the answer because it was accepted and wasn't considered taboo to those around her. Childhood stars are often affected by their upbringing. Lots of childhood stars, with some exceptions, are put under so much pressure from parents and other superiors that their mental well being suffers from it. Lots of them turn to drugs and other substances later in their life to help compensate for their unhappiness. An example of this is Michael Jackson. Jackson was raised in his large family and was very much music oriented. He was put under tremendous pressure, especially by his father, to perform well and be successful. Michael Jackson is a prime example of how the events in his early age altered his future life. Before his death, Jackson went through numerous surgeries to alter his look and turned to drugs. Jackson is also notorious for living vicariously through children in what seemed like him trying to relive the childhood he never had. There are cases of child abuse investigated, and his entire theme park that he created are examples of his borderline infatuation with youth and children.